Here's the $1,000,000 question. Do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet?
Right. So non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing. And there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that.
And so, Karl, that is quite a bold statement. I'm wondering, and I'm curious, how confident are you that that is true?
There's zero doubt.
Yes, zero doubt. Welcome
Hey,
to the bigger picture. Hey, Sid.
hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Great thing to start with. There is zero doubt, and that's what I think too. There is zero doubt. But let's continue. Yeah, give
Yeah,
me your thoughts about it.
yeah. So this episode today is really gonna focus on this interview that happened on Salt with Colonel Karl Nell. We're also gonna dive a little bit in who the person is. We're also gonna drop by Reality Check from Ross Coulthart. And yeah, we're gonna sort of unpack some of these statements that he made because they're really mind blowing when you sort of go over them.
Yeah. So, to be honest, I listened to the interview, and I'm really happy with it. But I don't know anything about this person. So, do you want to introduce that person to us and
Yes,
everything? Yeah.
yes, we are gonna do that. We're gonna start with the introduction, and then I have to find this one. Yeah, here we go. Who is Karl Nell?
And it's not just any bloke we're talking about here. Colonel Karl Nell, if he'd stayed in the military, would likely have become a brigadier general. This is one very senior US Army officer. He's ex-US Army Space Command, ex-Northrop Grumman, ex-Lockheed Martin, ex-Bell Labs, ex-CTO for a $2 billion company, a former Reserve Army Brigade commander, a former senior advisor to the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, a Deputy Chief of Staff to the Combatant Command, the man who advised Army Futures Command on the reorganisation of the Army Reserves, the largest since the 1970s, and a former director of the Pentagon's UAP task force.
Yeah, so that's quite a list we got there. And he's actually
Yeah.
not the only one who recently stepped forward. I just want to highlight this article by Rear Admiral Tim what's his name? Tim Gallaudet, who also recently came forward, only then on the topic of submerged UFOs. So submerged UAPs. And this is from the Soul Foundations. For people who don't know, follow the Soul Foundation. They also do incredible interviews and video presentations, but they also have quite an archive of text and papers that are being brought out by really important people within the military, the Navy, the Air Force, you name it. So this is about submerged anomalous vehicles or UAPs. So let's start with what you make out of all of this, Sid.
So this is exactly what it was being said back in 90s in Stephen Greer press conference. Remember, he brought so many generals out and everybody
Yeah.
made fun of it, but they were actual generals. They were exactly saying the same thing, but UAPs were not very, like, was not a common subject at that time, and it was very taboo to talk about that. So, but that was the introduction of army into the UFO world, where army generals or army persons, I don't know, they all were generals, but they came out and they said it, and from there we got uh, the leaked videos from army system that they captured gimbal video or tic tac video, and they leaked it, and now we have official, like, high profile people from army coming out and saying there is absolutely no doubt. So the problem is, like, what else you want when they are saying there is absolutely no doubt? At least take their word.
Yeah. I think there's, of course, a couple of differences. Even though Karl Nell actually agrees with you in the interview, which I recommend everybody to watch in its entirety, and the one with Ross Coulthart, which is a commentary on it, watch that one too. We're gonna sort of highlight some parts of it, but the entire videos are really, really good. But in that interview with Salt, actually, Karl Nell also sort of says the same thing as you, right? We've been here before. We've been at this sort of tipping point where we could have had full disclosure, or at least disclosure, and then the forces that want to be, they push back and put it back in the box or under the carpet, and and then you're 50 years later, right?
Yeah.
So we've been at this point before, but there's also a difference, right? And I think they also talk about that on Need to Know with Ross Coulthart and Bryce Simbal, where they sort of say, like, okay, what's different this time is that the ranking officers that have come out are higher and more numerous, and also sort of the testimonies, or the people who are directly involved with these programs have also testified, even though they have testified anonymously, but are also sort of on the verge of more testimonies coming. And what's also really cool, which is also in sort of highlighted in this interview, but also what Ross Coulthart sort of confirms from his sources, is that there is probably a new Schumer amendment being pushed forward soon in Congress, also bipartisan, like the last one. So Schumer is the head of the Senate, and Democrat, but it's sort of pushed by Democrats and Republicans. And that is an amendment to the NDAA, or the National Defense Authorization Act, for disclosure of non-human intelligence, because that's what we're talking about, non-human intelligence and UFO. So that's different, like the level of Congress and the push forward at this level, and this openness, and also sort of the public, the openness with the public, which is also, I think, very different from before, because like 50 years ago, this was like pretty fringe.
Yeah, but 50 years ago, they'd never seen a video. Now we have verified videos of UFOs. So that's a big difference. When people now know they have seen it, like, and they have not just seen it from a random guy. They have seen it from military, like Pentagon have accepted that they are unexplainable phenomena. So the point is, the people know they are there, and a lot of people back in the day, even they have seen it, they never say it out loud because they were afraid that people will start making fun of them, mocking them, and they were afraid. But now it's more cool to be a UFO believer than a UFO denier. Before it was opposite. So that's the change, and now all the politicians are involved. And some of the politicians I hate, like Chuck Schumer, is like an asshole. I don't like him, but
But on this point,
not on this point. I like it what he's
Yeah.
doing there, but I'm just talking in general.
Yeah.
But then some of them
So
are,
let's hear Chuck Schumer talking.
okay.
Here comes Chuck Schumer. Wait, sorry, the wrong one, because these videos are both more or less titled the same way. So yes, I should have. Wait, give me 1 second. Yeah, I think it's this one. Okay, I think it's this one.
Senator Schumer, to quote him, almost said it was a
Okay, wait. Sorry, it is the other one, but they're both talking about Chuck Schumer at the same time. Okay, here it comes.
And
No, it's the other one. Oh, sorry, people.
Yeah.
This is really annoying.
Producer.
travesty that this did not pass.
The United States government has gathered a great deal of information about UAPs over many decades, but has refused to share it with the American people. We've also been notified by multiple credible sources that information on UAPs has also been withheld from Congress, which, if true, is a violation of the laws requiring full notification to the legislative branch.
Not everything that we wanted, but we'll continue to move forward and find additional transparency.
Yeah, so that's Chuck Schumer and the Republican. I don't know his name in this case, but that was a Republican who sort of echoed what Schumer just said. So it is bipartisan, and they're pushing it forward.
Yeah, but they are trying. I don't think they will go anywhere.
No,
I don't think they will go they will reach any conclusion. These politicians, they will keep doing escapes. They will not get answers. I think the slow disclosure is not a thing. It's going to be a catastrophic disclosure where aliens will come out like, yeah, you are our slaves and we are your masters. That's how it's gonna end, because military is not doing anything. And in my opinion, the army have no idea either. Like, they have some idea, but they don't know the full picture. That's why they are all confused. If they like, our perception is that US military and then aliens are working together and there is a conspiracy going on. I don't think that's the case. I think they just found some spare parts or something. They have like retrieval program and they have retrieved something, but they don't have actual contact with the.
well, that's it. I got a lot of clips today, and
Okay, let's see.
I prepared it well. So I'm just gonna go with the flow, and I'm gonna sort of where you say NHI, how involved are they, and how much do we know? So
Let's go.
this clip sort of ties into that.
Covert agreements with NHI, unaccountable parties advancing unknown agendas, the idea that disclosure will precipitate or accelerate negative repercussions, and that there might be a quid pro quo from the NHI itself. It's not the first time people have talked from the inside about agreements, covert agreements. You might remember in my interview with David Grush a year ago, he acknowledged that there was, in his DOPSA, talk of agreements, but he was very, very vague. He didn't want to talk much at all on camera about what that all meant.
Yeah, so that's about secret or classified agreements between NHIs or non-human intelligence and high-level ops security people, with special access clearances, like the shadow government or the deep state or whatever you want to call them. And there have been rumors, like he says, about this. Actually, in this same interview, they also mention the head of the Space Organization of Israel, who basically came forward and sort of acknowledged that there is NHI. He actually even spoke, I think, in that interview about the Galactic Federation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, that I don't trust that guy. That sounds like bullshit. Like, there's a Galactic Federation, bigger brother. I don't think that's the case, because look, if universe was teeming with life, we
Yeah.
have received at least one signal. The way they are this is the propaganda they are saying, that there is the federation means there are like multiple, not multiple, more than multiple, like hundreds of civilizations out there who are working together, and Earth is about to join them. I That doesn't look like, in when you look at the space. So there's like a ufology, and then there is actual science of the space, right? So when you read astrophysics or even anything related to space, you don't find any sign of any intelligence. So they both have to go. I'm not
Yeah,
saying.
but you do have to in that interview with Karl Nell, he also references SETI, right, or SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and then they sort of beam out signals,
Yeah.
and then Karl
No,
Nell
no, no. They receive.
oh, sorry, they receive.
Yeah.
But then Cornell makes the point, like, the only two things that sort of send out signals, which is why we're using SETI in the first place to pick them up, are sort of television broadcasting and what was it, nuclear defense radar systems or something like in that nature. And he said, like, if you're a really advanced species and we're moving in that direction ourselves, we actually don't do that anymore, and there's nothing to receive on the other
Yeah.
end.
My rebuttal to that is, first of all, they're not just looking for TV signal, they're looking for radio signal. And radio signal is basically a light signal that is more common even if you're not broadcasting it. Secondly, the point of that Israeli minister, there is a galactic federation. I am saying if there is a federation, it means there are so many civilization in different stages, and one of them should be on our level. It can't be just us and the federation. It's not like we are the only developing civilization. If it's like team universe is teeming with the civilization, so there must be another stupid civilization like us who is broadcasting the signals, and we should be catching it. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying there is no intelligence out there. I'm just saying about the statement of that Israeli minister that there is a galactic federation.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of completely agnostic on that point, right? I do find the name also kind of sort of comical, like, Star Trek. It has a
Yeah, it's
really
a
sort of
very
strong
Star Trek
Star Trek
thing.
connotation, right? That
Yeah,
you can almost see them in a sort of Enterprise, and the skin suits, and
yeah.
but to sort of to push back a little bit, the Federation could be sort of intergalactic, right? I mean, if they are really advanced, then you could have like a group within the Federation that has intergalactic capabilities, and the rest of the Federation stuck in their respective planet or galaxy, and being represented by that sort of other group which has higher capabilities. I'm just sort of
No, so my personal opinion is I don't think the universe is teeming with life, but there are multiple high, s- uh, like non-human intelligence out there, like really high IQ level. They're very advanced than us, but then the number is very small. It's not like a federation out there. There are two, three, four, five out there. That's what
actually
I think. Yeah.
that sort of reminds me of the one that I sent to you, which I almost forgot, um, which was about Elon Musk. Remember that I sent you that one?
Elon Musk is lying. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
telling you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that. But the thing about Elon Musk is like, yeah, I've not seen anything, dude. You're
Ah, yeah,
lying.
this I got it.
Okay, let's play that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it will play because this is from News Nation, so I hope it doesn't get cut off. Sorry, my English. And I got a commercial first, so I'm now
Oh
listening
wow,
to commercial.
nice. But yeah, the thing about Elon Musk is, I think Elon Musk. To be honest, I think he's been replaced. Elon Musk is a very different person now as he was before. He was anti AI, anti cyborgism, because like now he's creating the brain implant.
Yeah.
It's like a 360, not 180-degree change in his opinion. You can't change like that overnight. There must be something crazy going on. There is a possibility that
Well,
alien
no.
contacted him.
No.
And
Remember in our previous show with Paul McNeil, and then you sort of mentioned that Trump is very unpredictable, that he's sort of the clown, but also keeps you guessing what his real motivation is. And Elon Musk is basically Trump, right? He's doing the same thing
mm,
as Trump. He
the
keeps people
thing is,
guessing.
Trump is unpredictable because he never say his policy outright. He just pick what is popular. Elon Musk was doing the opposite. He was going against the whole world, and he was speaking against AI. Everybody was going, like all the computer engineers at that time was saying that making AI is good, and he was like, no, that's a bad idea. And
Well,
then
I take the other option here. I do think they have a much similar approach to these things, and sort of they try to keep their opponents off balance by sort of saying something then doing the opposite. And for Trump, that was actually, I forgot in which interview he said that, or somebody talking about Trump, but it was sort of something about making the deal, the book that he wrote, as whatever it's called. And that he actually uses that as a technique to sort of keep your opponent off balance. But anyway, I found a clip,
okay,
so let's go to the clip. Okay, if we get cancelled, it's because of a news nation. But okay, let's try.
I've not seen any evidence of aliens, and SpaceX with the Starlink constellation has roughly 6,000 satellites, and not once have we had to maneuver around a UFO.
What would you say?
Okay, there was a delicious scandal in England in the 1950s, Blake, when a young woman was accused of having an affair with a British politician, and he categorically denied it. And Mandy Rice Davis said, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? And let's be honest about it, if Elon Musk had been briefed into a UFO crash retrieval program, and if he had been told by the Defense Department that his SpaceX contract was dependent on keeping it secret, I'm sure he would keep it secret. I am told, in fact, I've been told, not necessarily officially, but I've been told by people who are aware of what Elon Musk and SpaceX are up to, that he has been read into parts of the program. But
so, and this is, of course, Coulthart saying what he says, right? So you do have to sort of take Coulthart's word for it.
Yeah,
and the sources on which he trusts, right? In which he trusts.
But Elon Musk is not lying. He is not telling the full truth, because what he is saying, his words are very specific. Not once they have to maneuver around a UFO, but that's a very specific word. You don't have.
He's talking like a lawyer.
No, but this is what he is saying. Okay,
we haven't. Yeah, they didn't, right?
But you don't have to maneuver around a UFO. That's what he said.
So because they will maneuver around your satellite.
Yeah, exactly. So his words are very specific, and you need to read into this. Secondly, I don't think the space aliens are. These UFOs are space aliens. I think they are interdimensional. They don't come from the space. They are appearing out of nowhere and disappearing into nothing. This is the difference, because forget about Elon. There are tens of thousands of amateur astronomers out there who have telescope put on their house, and they're recording everything. Not once they have captured a photo of a UFO near Mars or near Saturn. It's always in our atmosphere.
I'm not sure about this.
No, I've not, but maybe I have missed it, but maybe there is one or two, but I've not seen any actual photo. Like, we have a gimbal video. I've not seen any telescope video or a photo.
I think you have like moonwalkers.
The moon is different. Then they appear directly on the moon. I'm just talking about in space.
And you got the ring makers of Mars, which is actually worth a show in itself. But
no, I'm talking about in space, not inside the planet. They do appear directly in the planet. This is what I'm saying. You don't see a UFO traveling. The only one we know, which we have captured, is Avi Loeb's Oumuamua, which was captured in the space. And that was captured by an astronomer, amateur astronomer as well.
But what do you then make of those? I forgot the name of the. That doesn't matter, but I'll try to find it and link it down below. But the feed of the space station that sort of gets cut off at certain moments, and something comes into view, and then the camera veers away.
Yeah, that's not a space. That's Earth orbit. I'm talking about a space.
Okay.
What I'm saying, if they're coming from the space, from a different planet, you must have some photos of them traveling in the space. What I'm saying, you always find them in the atmosphere or very close to the planet. You don't find them in the space where there is like an actual space. And there are thousands of cameras out there. So that's why I believe they are not a space alien. I think they are interdimensional alien, or they have a mode of transport where they can move from one place to another through portals.
Yeah, and that also ties in with that article that I showed you, Beneath the Surface, from Tim Gallaudet, the rare admiral that I shared from the Navy, because he sort of makes the point also in one of his interviews, like many people have made that same point, is they can be interdimensional, they can be actually cryptic in the sense that they're actually from Earth. They can be they can actually live underneath the sea, or
Yeah.
in the sea. Sorry, underneath the surface of the sea, I should say. Not-
Yeah, but it's
but yeah,
very easy to open a portal underneath the sea because then nobody will see it, and then you will just appear out of this water. You won't see a portal opening. So that's what I think, that UFOs are all USOs. So they are
yeah, yeah,
submersible. So
yeah.
they open the portal in somewhere in the ocean, and then they travel from there.
Yeah, and
You,
I think we should also show that clip of Kevin Knuth, who sort of made that point that it's very smart if you're sort of traveling through space or whatever, that you settle in the ocean of a different planet because of the temperatures are sort of
yeah,
more similar than
yeah.
on the surface of different planets and that kind of stuff.
Mhm. You know the movie Pacific Rim with the
I
kaijus?
do.
Yeah. So those kaijus are coming from a different universe, but their portals always open beneath the ocean, like at the
Mhm.
surface of the ocean. So the mags have to go and fight under the water. But this is, they didn't come up with that, right? There is like a theory going on for a long time that there are portals underneath the sun where the aliens are coming, and that movie got that idea, and then they went with that.
And you sort of mentioned, which is also in the interview, the catastrophic disclosure, which is
Yeah.
a very interesting concept. And the way I sort of understood Ross Coulthart's take or commentary on what Karl Nell was saying was basically that this whole sort of effort from Schumer and themselves and people like uh, Jeffrey, what is now? Yeah. Anyway, the whole group of people, from Richard Dolan to Ross Coulthart and everybody else, Louis Elizondo and Skinwalker Ranch. So sort of they're trying to build this momentum, also in Congress with Tim Burchett, that there is no going back, even though they sort of try to keep it secret
Mhm.
and push back against the amendment or whatever. There's such a build-up that will actually lead to the catastrophic disclosure in itself, right? That because the momentum will be so big that you can sort of officially deny it, but then it doesn't really matter because then people start spilling their guts because there is so much sort of pressure from the outside to do
Yeah.
that.
And my initial point when I said that army don't like had no they don't know the full picture, I
Mhm.
just mean the mainstream army. I didn't mean shadow government. Shadow government is a whole different thing. They
Yeah.
might know everything, but we don't even know who are in that, who are the people running that part, because that's in literally in shadows.
Yeah, so we're gonna also touch a little bit on sort of the reasons that Colonel gives for keeping it a secret, because those are 6 reasons that he gives, and I think we have been over them ourselves in this program, or at least most of
Hmm.
them. But it's sort of nice that he gives the list.
Yeah.
There's 6 basic reasons, and this, again, you could draw this out from first principles. There's a national security reason. There's the lack of a plan. There's the potential for societal disruption. There's the possibility that there's some non-public agreement. There's the potential for misdeeds and the desire to cover up misdeeds. And there's just the basic organizational intransigence and lack of priority that might be associated with the topic.
So those are the 6 reasons that he gives, and I think all 6 have merit and make sense
Hmm.
in themselves. I personally think, and I think you do too, that I think it's the 4th reason that he gives like about basically corruption and criminality and sort of the secrecy itself is probably the biggest reason that it is kept secret, right? That there's so much stuff that has happened in secret that at some point the secret becomes too big and too much is at stake, and people might go to jail or worse. And then sort of it's like the carrot and the stick. On the one hand, you lose a lot, and on the other hand, you gain a lot by keeping it a secret. So there's like, you want to keep it secret because there's so much gain, like infinite power. And on the other hand, if you do release it, you'll probably go to jail the rest of your life. So why the hell would you tell it.
And I think there are two factions in there in the whole cover up, like in the army. One is like still want to hide it, and the other one is leaking it because they are
Yeah.
pro the disclosure, so they cannot come out against the will of their superiors. But what they do, they get the leak videos. Basically, they get the videos and they leak it in the media somehow.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
still don't know who actually leaked the first three video, gimbal video, and the Tic Tac video.
Yeah, and I'm talking about leaking and people in the military who do that, right? Snowden, we have Manning, Julian Assange is of course not military, but he did his thing. But you actually also have the military guy who leaked the MH370 footage that
Yeah.
inspired Ashton Forbes, and for which he went to 6 years to prison. And officially they won't tell anybody why he went to prison. But he basically said that it was because of what he did, even though
Yeah.
he didn't say it with so many words, because he can't,
Exactly.
because of an NDA. But but that's another whistleblower who went to prison that people might not be aware of. That's also very interesting.
The problem is it's a very big secret. People cannot keep it a
Yeah,
secret.
yeah.
Like some people can, but a lot of the people who have conscience, they want to tell the world about it.
Yeah, and I also think we live in a time. So there's a and last time we also talked about this. So on the one hand, you have this sort of cultural shift that is also sort of are also actually preparing the ground for this disclosure by when you look at Hollywood and all the stuff that's coming out. And with each generation that dies, the next generation is more open-minded about the stuff that is happening or is impacts their lives, right? So it's clear that sort of stuff that was very sort of difficult to conceive for the previous generation is much more acceptable for the current generation. So there's this acceptance, but there's also sort of the technology itself, right? We all have smartphones, we all have very advanced equipment that sort of allows us to see things that we wouldn't have had 10 years ago. There is but then there's also the technology itself, right? So the technology that they are hiding is coming to fruition, right? That it is becoming so big, and it has so many applications and implications, and that on the and so many people are working on it at some point because it's getting so large and developed that becomes very difficult to silence everybody who is working on it. And as it becomes clearer, of compartmentalize it because it's still control, and people have like, oh, I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but it's interesting. But as these things come together and people start seeing the whole picture, oh, he's working on that thing and I'm working on this thing. Oh, if you put it together, it's like an atomic bomb. Like, then it becomes kind of difficult to to hide it from the people who are actually working on it, right? So plus you are working on it in order to at some point implement it, right? Because why the hell would you otherwise be developing it in the first place? So at some point you want to release it out in the wild or in the public, or you want to implement it and use it, right, in the open. And that is actually, we have been talking about this for now since we started the bigger picture. And Ross Coulthart basically says the same thing. So I want to play that clip. He says two things that we have also said.
Suspicion is that the United States has developed these technologies to such a point that they feel they have a technological advantage, and that by revealing even the existence of NHI, it's a slippery slope, and that what we'll see eventually is a forced disclosure, a catastrophic disclosure of the fact that the US is in possession of technology that it thinks might give it an advantage in any future conflict with a foreign adversary.
Yes, and that is exactly what I've been saying from the very start, right? They are developing not only weapon systems, but they are also developing weapon systems. I mean, why wouldn't they? And but they also know that their adversaries are probably doing the same thing. And they probably also know, okay, if we can do this with our weapon systems, what the hell can they do with theirs?
But if you look at the official launch military equipment, Russia and US have exactly same type of weapons. Our highest fighter jet, like sixth generation, they also have a sixth generation plane. So they always are keeping up. It's not like we have superiority. I think only US have superiority after World War II, when they developed the bomb they had for a few years. After that, Russia catched up, and then every time US released a new plane, Russia released a new
Yeah, and
plane.
actually, the Russians were also ahead, right? With the space race, they were actually
Yeah.
ahead of the US, and that's also why you could argue, and I'm sort of agnostic on that. That maybe we weren't the first on the moon, but that they had to fake it in order to win it, right? And then they later on
Yeah.
went to the moon. But that at that specific point they had to be the first ones, otherwise they would have been laughed out of the school.
Yeah, did you see that video of Putin talking with an AI, like them looking at the images, and then they, I don't know, it was an exhibition or something. So they put the photos for AI check, like real or fake.
Yeah.
So when they put the photos of US landing on the moon, the AI said, no, that's fake. And
Seriously?
Putin said, interesting. He
Wow.
was definitely trolling over there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's super cool. I didn't know that, but you got so many, conspiracy theories, or at least theories. Some people who went through all the pictures and with the reflections, and Stanley Kubrick, and the references in The Shining, and it's I don't know, but I wouldn't put it past them, right?
yeah.
I would probably do it if I were them and I was losing the space race. I would definitely do it if I could.
Yeah, but the only other problem with that is political thing. If they were faking it, Russia would have called it out right away, because they
Unless they
were
did a really
monitoring
good
it.
job.
Hmm?
Unless they did a really good job.
They did a good job on the videos, but Russia had the telescope fix. They were literally monitoring the whole journey,
Yeah,
like
okay,
going
yeah.
there and coming back.
Good point. Good point.
Unless they knew it and then they used that information to blackmail US government, like, do this to us or we gonna release the footage where you faked it. So they could have done that part too. But yeah, still, I'm just saying, like, it's not the people, right? People didn't have the technology to monitor it, but Russia definitely did. They were ahead of us in everything. UK was there, and a lot of other countries were monitoring it too, probably. So I don't see that it is easy to fake that part.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I also want to play this one because it also ties in with the stuff that we've said. So let's just play it.
And then there's also the point that Karl made, which is the prevention of a loss of technological dominance. The idea that, again, I increasingly hear from people on the inside, that one of the things that is constraining our ability to understand this technology is the fact that the way we are doing the research, the way we are doing the science inside this legacy program is completely antithetical to good science. Scientists love to be able to share ideas, to swap ideas, to have their papers peer-reviewed and criticised. That's how humanity will make advances. Imagine if a government came...
So I think this is a really good point, and we've also made this point on the show, that by compartmentalizing it, as sort of the day after Roswell, the book from Phil Corso, he sort of says like that they planted certain things at certain companies in order to sort of to develop those technologies that they retrieved in secret, sort of in secret, but also in the open, right? Because it's in the company, but they didn't sort of know where they got the ID or the seeding from. But the problem is, of course, it would be way more useful if you can sort of do it in the open and involve many more people, and that's actually how science develops. But you are sort of in this sort of dilemma, right? Because of the level of secrecy, but also sort of the technology that you're dealing with is so advanced that you might not be able to control it if somebody who's really smart looks at it and draws conclusions that you didn't think of yourself and then runs with it, or goes to the opposite groups, which basically might also have happened with MH370, right? Because the plane was full of semiconductor scientists who were working on the technology that probably made the plane disappear, heading to China, right? The opposition, right? So you can sort of understand why they would do it secretly, but that they also would need to do it in the open, because you cannot do it fully compartmentalized, because then you get nowhere, right? And that's also something that Bob Lazar says, that they were all working on a little piece of something, and that they, that one group didn't really know what the other group was working on, and so it's not very effective if you're trying to reverse engineer something of an intelligence that's infinitely superior.
Also, it's not like it's the only story out there of that MH360, 370. Is it 360 or 370?
370.
370. Yeah, we also have like a Philadelphia experiment
Yeah.
too back in the day, where they make a ship disappear and reappear. So it's not, that's a conspiracy, yes, but I'm saying the account has been recorded. Call it a conspiracy or something, but there has been something similar in the past. Like U.S. Navy was working on something, and then another thing happened. They must have done something, or it was just an accident. But what I have heard from Ashton Force, I am likely to believe him more.
Yeah, and I think Jesse Mitchell also did a special, not a special on that particular thing, but he mentioned it in passing in one of his videos, when he sort of does a backstory on anti-gravity, because that's basically what anti-gravity or semiconducting, or what is it, over unity, all these kind of different words are sort of the Pice effect, are sort of all referencing sort of the same kind of technology. Perhaps from different angles. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know, but they're sort of connected with each other. But then he also talks about the Philadelphia experiment. I think that's the name, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Philadelphia experiment. Yeah, but coming back to the technology, right? So these are also two reasons that could lead to catastrophic disclosure, right? Because if you, first of all, if you have technology that scientists are working on and then sort of developing, and then sort of the point that I made earlier, then it reaches a certain level and then it becomes very difficult to hide, and then that could in itself lead to catastrophic disclosure when people start putting together the puzzle. And on the other hand, the other thing, with a super weapon, if you do develop a super weapon or super capabilities, you or your rival or both, then that could also definitely lead to a catastrophic disclosure, right? Because the first of the parties who start using it, discloses everything, and then also and that's sort of the point that I actually wanted to make with this episode, because I got so much stuff, because we're sort of talking about the changing reality, and there's two things that are really there's one clip that I also want to show, and that's this and that is that Karl Nell makes the point that he says, to get from one place to the other, so from getting from non-disclosure to disclosure, is two stable states separated by an unstable middle ground. And that is sort of complexity theory, of course, what he's talking about.
It's a very good quote.
Yeah,
I
it's a
really
really,
love it. Yeah.
and I also I got the quote in I'm gonna play it in a little bit. But so what you have, like when you think about that quote, is that you have these superpowers who are working in secret on super technologies that they cannot reveal for those 6 reasons that he mentioned. Plus, they are top secret, so that often, it's like Fight Club. Nobody really knows what they probably they don't even know themselves what they have developed. Um, and then but then you have this problem because you have to go from A to B, and there's chaos in between that you cannot control. But the group, the country or the superpower who manages to bridge that gap first and successfully wins the race, right? Because then they can do it all out in the open. They can also use it without sort of negative repercussion, social, cultural, religious repercussions, societal repercussions, because they managed to bridge that chaotic gap. And Karl Nell is not the only one who makes this point, because the Chinese recently make exactly the same point as Karl Nell did in this interview. And that is from Matthew Pine, who's also worth following. He's a very eclectic thinker, and he puts together different things. So there was this, I'm not sure if it was an interview or something, but Xi Jinping, so he sort of distilled Xi Jinping's theory of national power. And then he says, like, techno-scientific capabilities are the primary source of national power. That's what Xi Jinping said. And secondly, at certain moments, those techno-scientific capabilities undergo disruptive revolutions where great leaps happen that most benefit first movers. And we are now in such a movement. So he's exactly saying the same thing as Karl Nell. So these superpowers are talking
The
about...
term he used, techno scientific, is stupid because technology is scientific. So he
Yeah,
could just
okay.
have said technology. He's just trying to sound smart over here.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, that's typical.
Some people want to be smart and they pretend to be smart. They use terms like that. Techno scientific is already. If he was saying techno magic, I understand that it's like two different things and he's mixing it up. But techno scientific, technology is science.
Okay, we're gonna listen to the quote from Karl
Okay.
Nell because it's golden. This is actually worth the entire interview.
And I've suggested something similar in past statements. The point here, though, is to go from a pre-disclosure to a post-disclosure world, maybe two stable states that are separated by an unstable middle ground. And so how you make that transition, again, bespeaks to the concern about this catastrophic disclosure. And this has come up in sort of arms regulation too. Mutually assured destruction, however much we don't like it, is...
Yeah, and then he makes the comparison to mutual assured destruction. And that's also something that I wanted to sort of dive into.
Yes, because that's what I was thinking. We are about to see mutual destruction very soon on June 12th, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, you're on the same wavelength. Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because that's a crazy story, and I'm surprised no one is talking about that. Like media, that's like I think is the biggest news of our time.
Yeah, well, I'm not 100% sure if we're talking about the same thing. So, what are you talking about in
I'm
the...
talking about the Russian ships in Cuba.
Oh, yeah, well, okay. Yeah, okay. That's sort of, yeah, it's pretty close to... So that's happening. And then you got Peter Saihan, the geopolitical analyst. I don't really like him, but even though I got 2 of his books. Um, but he's smart. But he's very, he has a very clear agenda, very clear U.S. propaganda agenda, and he sort of makes fun of the Russian ships. As long as they don't catch fire on their way here, it's fine. he's sort of downplaying the significance of that. But I actually think that you're right, that it's serious.
I think it's very serious because
Yeah.
if people remember Cuban Missile Crisis back in 70s, it was 60s or 70s anyway, before I was born.
Yeah, the
So yeah, they came very close to a nuclear war, but then suddenly
uh,
they came very close to a nuclear war. There were ships
60.
facing each 60s, yeah.
Yeah.
The ships were facing each other. Both were nuclear powered. They have nuclear weapons,
Yeah.
and it was a matter of time somebody have pressed the button. But I think it was the time of Kennedy's. So Kennedy made sure that won't happen, and we survived that catastrophe. But I don't think we have person like Kennedy in our office right now. Is Joe
No.
Biden.
Yeah.
It's so dangerous. Like we have Joe Biden while this is happening. If something happens, you are looking at full scale world war.
Yeah, and so because that's something that I wanted to sort of work towards, because we are talking about catastrophic disclosure, and you and me, we've also talked about sort of this war that it's thank God it's not a world war yet, even though maybe it is, but
Mhm.
it has not escalated like to a full kinetic war with super weapons.
It
But
is escalating towards that.
yeah, but we're getting there slowly,
Yeah.
and we both have sort of theorized about the fact, that they're fighting all these proxy wars to sort of tentatively feel where the other party is, when it comes to super advanced weapon systems, and that's maybe also why you sometimes see these UFOs in war areas, like Ukraine and in the Middle East, where they are often spotted. Um, but this particular thing is about that NATO is readying 300,000 troops for European defense against Russia through land corridors. One is, by the way, in the Netherlands. Troops would land at key ports, including Rotterdam, which is in the Netherlands, and move east via pre-planned routes to counter any potential Russian strike or attack. These corridors would utilize ports in the Netherlands, Italy, Greece, Turkey, and Norway, as well as the German-Poland railway. So here's the map of these different areas. So this is getting pretty serious, and the reason that they're doing this is because of this, which is also very serious. And that is that they have been arming Ukraine with very advanced ballistic missile systems.
Yeah.
And this, I forgot the name of this writer. It's not by Tyler Durden, but anyway, a geopolitical analyst points out that either Ukrainian leadership is desperately trying to fully commit NATO to the war in Ukraine, or strikes are a preparation for nuclear strikes to Russia by the US, because they're taking out radar systems in Russia,
Hmm.
advanced radar systems that are used to detect incoming intercontinental ballistic missiles, right? So,
Yeah.
and some of these radar systems that they are targeting are not even facing the Ukraine, so there's no reason to destroy them in the first place. But even if they were, right, if you keep destroying them, anybody who plays like a real-time strategy game knows that if somebody takes out all your advanced warning systems, well, when you know that the other person has super weapons, like that, there's only one thing that you can do in such a situation, and that is, a preemptive strike.
Yeah, but first of all, they are fooled to think that US will do a preemptive strike
I
on
mean, Russia.
Russia, even Russia. Right? Okay, I'll come to that. But first of all, they are thinking that US can do it on behalf of Ukraine. That's stupid. US is not gonna do it because attacking Russia means they're gonna launch it back to US, and it's a mutual destruction. So I don't think any of them will start that way. Secondly, Russians. So the background of this story is like US allowed Ukraine to use their weapons to strike inside Russia. And there is a military contract when you're sailing to the country, any country, they always put a statement that you cannot do a attack using these weapons. So they can only be used in defense, but US allowed to
Under
for
Trump.
to go as an attack. In response to that, Russia said, if you do that, we can use tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. I recently was reading yesterday or something, I don't remember exactly, but Macron of France said,
Yeah.
if Russia do that in Ukraine, we won't do anything. So they are already backing off.
Yeah, okay, but they are creating these land corridors of 300,000.
But they are like more on the defensive side, because they don't want to go to a war.
Yeah,
So
okay,
yeah,
but so I just put out this one from the Daily Mail. Russian state TV guests discuss annihilating Poland in 10 minutes with nukes. Of course, this is not like something that they want to do, but they're starting to talk openly about it, and sort of entertaining the idea. And like you said, I fully agree that I don't think that they want to do that, and I actually do think that both parties want to sort of contain this conflict. But
yeah.
as you keep on fighting,
Mhm.
you know,
Things will escalate.
and somebody will make a mistake, right? That's why you shouldn't go there in the first place. That's sort of the basic understanding during the Cold War, during the height of tensions, and when they really hated each other's guts. When these smart game theory people like Schelling came together and said, like, okay,
Yeah.
you don't want to go there even if you hate each other because somebody is going to make a mistake, so
Yeah,
de-escalate.
so I think that Russian ships in Cuba, they are going there for military exercise, but I think that was in response to the attack of Ukraine. So they want to put a contingency plan in Cuba. And Cuba is like very close to US, like Florida and Cuba, like they share the border. You can see the country from one side or another. So it's like very close over there. Secondly, the big thing, BRICS. BRICS is launching its own currency, which
Yeah,
means they are planning to crush US dollar.
yeah. So so slowly it's all coming together,
It's
and the problem is, of course, that America doesn't want that, right? So America doesn't want the BRICS to come together with their own currency because that would be devastating for the American economy, right? Because then
yeah,
all those dollars come flooding back in, and then you get hyperinflation, and you're toast. Right, and your
yeah,
alliance is probably also toast because who wants to then stick around with the US? um, but so up till now, and that's something that you pointed out, like both parties or both groups have the same interest in the conflict, like they want to sort of keep it going as long as possible because they both gain for different reasons. Like the BRICS gain because they can sort of do their thing as the conflict goes on, and it weakens the West and America.
mhm,
And if they can keep it like this, then they will win because momentum is on their hand. But the other side, the West, also wants this conflict to keep on because they're fighting a war against us, the people, and they
yeah,
also need hyperinflation. No, not hyperinflation, but controlled high inflation in order to keep the debt rolling, and also to fill their pockets and to finance the black projects.
yeah. Also, on the conspiracy side, that's not the real thing. It's the conspiracy part, that they might have been working together to reduce the world population.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because they know that AI gonna replace all the jobs, and then we will have a lot of angry jobless people who could overthrow the power. So what gonna happen? Like, it's better to draft everyone and make them fight each other. They will die. The remaining will
Yeah.
enjoy
And
the
plus
new
you
world.
don't even have to kill them,
Yeah,
uh, because what you can do with the war is regiment society, right?
yeah,
Because people will say, here's my freedom, I don't need it anymore, protect me from the evil Russians. I'll do whatever you want, give me your QR codes, give me AI
yeah,
to watch over me, put me in a straitjacket. And that's basically, also to come back to Karl Nell, right? That is what the West is trying to do, right? They're trying to put all their civilians, because they don't need us anymore, in straitjackets. And when we are all in straitjackets, controlled by CBDCs, AI, the whole control grid that they've been rolling out, the credit system, then they can tell us, oh yeah, and we do have alien technology.
Yeah.
Ta-da! Deal with it.
Or they are actually going to war, and that's their plan to like kill everyone, like kill most of the people, and then alien come and save us. That is also a
Oh,
possibility.
I
The
hope
second
they will.
coming of Jesus is probably alien returning, and then like, yeah, you guys have gone nuts.
See, there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but but
But
what do you think when
it looks
if
like
what
Coco's. You know, Coco have the same cat.
yes, yeah, that's the same cut. We
Yeah.
borrow. There's a portal.
Yeah, there's a portal.
What do you think if one of those two parties, in this case Russia or the West, makes a mistake and the conflict escalates? Because the way I look at it is, China cannot afford to lose Russia. So I think if there is a move to, if it gets out of control and Russia is losing, or like really losing, which at the moment it isn't, because their GDP, their debt to GDP level is 17%.
Yeah.
17%, and America's is 125% debt to GDP. But if they do lose because of super weapons or whatever, then China will move on Taiwan, right? I mean, that's the most that's what
Yeah,
you
but
would get.
when you go to World War, GDP, all those things won't even matter. Is in fact the poor country have more chance of winning because they have less to lose compared to the rich country. So the point is, I think all the governments knows the current financial system is bullshit, that has no backing, is gonna collapse. So rather
Yeah,
have a war.
that's what
And
the war is about, right? And
yeah,
what's causing the war in the first place?
yeah,
That the
because
system is disintegrating.
yes, and then I think I was reading few days ago that Saudi Arabia said if BRICS launch their currency, they will use that for oil trades, and US dollar is basically backed by the oil trade. So if Saudi Arabia move that out, that means a big financial collapse. So they know the situation. They know that they don't have any backing to the system. That's going to collapse. So let's go to war and then bring a new world order. Then you will have a
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
world order with the remaining people, one CBDC and whatever they have.
But then, because you mentioned the warships, and I actually meant something else, which is sort of happening around the same time. And I got that from an interview with Jim Rickards, which I'm gonna share, which also blew my mind. That's also where I got the GDP level of Russia. Like, it was already low. I think it was 25. So debt to GDP was, I think, 25 like a year ago or something. But now it's 17%. But in the same interview, he also mentioned something else, which is even more mind-blowing. And that's this.
About $300 billion of Treasury securities. So we froze them. Freezing them just means, okay, they're still Russia's securities, but they can't use them. They can't collect the interest. They can't pledge them. They can't repo them. They can't sell them, etc. They're kind of frozen, but they still belong to Russia. Now the U.S. wants to go a step further and seize them, actually convert the title, turn it over to some trust fund for the benefit of Ukraine. And actually, they say seize, I say steal. So they want to steal the Russian assets, the $300 billion. Now, we have a G7 summit coming up in about 2 weeks, June 13th to 15th. It's in Apulia in Italy. They've been working on this for over 6 months, but this is 2 weeks from now. So we're in a countdown mode, Daniela. At the G7 meeting, they want to formalize what they're going to do. Now, there's several different proposals. One is just to seize the whole 300 billion. One is to issue a $50 billion bond issue backed by the Russian assets. So, of course, Ukraine would default on the bonds and the creditors would seize the assets. It's just a backdoor way of stealing the assets.
Anyway, it goes through all the different options. And then he makes the point, and that's within a few days from now. Like next week is, I think this meeting will happen, which sort of coincides with the warships that you mentioned.
Yeah,
and the troop movements and
warship plus nuclear powered submarine.
Yeah, that latter thing is more important.
Yeah.
And then of course, Russia also has these supersonic underwater nuclear missiles, right?
Yeah.
Which are also important to know. And but he also mentions, like, if they do that, like if they seize the 300 billion that they have frozen, the assets that they took from the Russian central bank when the conflict started, and they seize it and they give it to Ukraine in one form or the other, then because it's regulated or done by or partly done for the most part by Europe Clear or Euroclear, which is
Mhm.
sort of a clearance house, and that sort of holds most of these Russian assets. And they have offices all over the world. One of those offices is in Hong Kong, where China basically rules. And then Russia can sort of go to Hong Kong and say, "Hey, I want to file a complaint about them seizing my 300 billion of assets." And then the court might rule in favor of Russia, and then Russia can sort of claim compensation for indemnities and sort of that they suffered. And that could,
Yeah.
could sort of short circuit the entire global financial system if they
Y-
it would be sort of like nuclear war on a financial level.
Understand this, law is only for the weak, not for the powerful. I don't think US will care whatever the courts say, and Russia will accept the decision. It's like they want it, so they can go to war. The problem is, like, small countries, like, yeah, Namibia is having an issue, they go to court and they wait for those proceedings. Countries like Russia, China, US, they don't care about the international law. They do
Oh, well,
whatever they want to do.
I think they do. I think if they can get their way using law, right? Because then you can appear like the good guy, right? If you can do it like through the official way and win, then of course. I think one of the things that makes Putin really a genius is that he also um, he has like he can think multiple steps ahead, but he also can set things to his hand, right? He's very good at sort of setting world opinion, like opinion outside of Russia, to his hands, right? Which is also something that's why the West is so fearful about disinformation and misinformation and that kind of stuff, is because they are not very good at doing that, and Putin clearly is very good at sort of playing the propaganda game. Um,
Yeah,
and
they are really good, actually. They
yeah,
have, as they don't, to be honest, they don't even care about it. They just want to drag the narrative as long as they can until they are ready to take over. And
yeah,
that's what, while they put all the sanctions on these countries, they develop their own currencies. Now, Iran, uh, China, and Russia, they are like the leading people. Even India, because India, okay,
yeah.
while we this all thing happening,
He
people are
had the elections.
election happened, but what India and Iran did, they built a port called Chabahar, that is an alternate route for trade. So if everything is blocked for them, they have another route which is bypassing everything, and they just go to China and, oh, sorry, from India to Iran through sea, and then from Iran to the other countries. So US is but hurt on that you cannot do that, and actually everyone is, because it is also bypassing the Silk Road of China and Pakistan. So China is also butthurt on that. So that could start a new war.
Yeah, and
And
of course, India is also nuclear armed,
the,
and
the
Iran.
yeah, no, not Iran, because Iran is not a problem. India is the problem over there,
Yeah,
because India will be the beneficiary, and they have to put one other country, which is like the mortal enemy of India, Pakistan. They will put these countries against each other,
yeah,
which both of them are nuclear power, so they can have another war just based on this port, because it's
yeah.
affecting both of them.
Yeah, and so this brings us again back to what Karl Nell is talking about, and China is also talking about. This you got these two stable states that are separated by an unstable middle ground, where we are right now moving through that middle ground, right? They're restructuring the economy under our noses. CBDCs are coming. Bitcoin is also like a ticking time bomb underneath the system, right? Because they have to either slow it down. That's what they're trying to do. They're slowing Bitcoin down as much as possible. That's what they do with the financial system. They try to regulate the price. It's going up, but they're trying to slow it down. Like gradual increase is okay, but it shouldn't go up like to 1 million and something. But basically, it's a bomb, right? Because at a certain point, Bitcoin becomes so big that it becomes destabilizing for the financial system.
If the world war start, then Bitcoin can go to $1 million, because then that will be the only way to transfer between the countries.
Yeah,
Because
and that's also
there is
why.
no blockage. Otherwise, to transfer money to one country to another, you have to use SWIFT system, which is like a hectic thing, and that can be blocked. In other terms, like Bitcoin is just one transaction. Go
And
to
that's why
wallet to
they
wallet.
also have Bitcoin in their bunkers, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think if we see world war, then we see $1 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that's also why we said, like, I think 4 or 5 years when we started Bitcoin Live, be careful what you wish for. Bitcoin at $1 million sounds nice, but in what state is the world?
Yeah, $1 million Bitcoin is not going like in the good way. It's be a catastrophe for the rest of the world.
I'm afraid you're right.
Yeah.
So I want to end with a last sort of topic, because that's something we also talked about, and it's also in this interview. Actually, there's two ones. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Give me one moment. Okay, okay. First, gonna play this one because that's sort of related.
Officer. And whilst he was working for Operation Iraqi Freedom in the Middle East, he was in charge, or he was one of the people planning with the so-called Foreign Material Program. And he served as the J2, which is essentially the primary intelligence officer, for the one-star Combined Joint Captured Materiel Exploitation Center, the JCMEC, in Iraq. Now, that's quite significant to me because the FMP, the Foreign Material Exploitation Program, is where I'm hearing a lot of this alleged retrieval operation internationally is being conducted.
So I found that very interesting, that tidbit. So because Ross Coulthart talks about it because he wants to explain that Colonel Karl Nell also probably has first-hand information about UAPs, even though in the interview he is more talking about second-hand information that sort of triggered him to believe, to have zero doubt in the existence of non-human intelligence operating on Earth. But what Ross Coulthart is doing here is sort of showing that he was also directly involved with the foreign material collection of UAPs abroad, right? So, and that he was sort of the high chief there. And I also find it very interesting that it is in the Middle East, in Iraq, right? Mission, the mission that the US did in Iraq, which brings us also back to Stargates.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
you and me, and you were the first one to bring that to my attention, that that the whole Stargate issue, and then we sort of dove into that, and there's a lot of interesting stuff in that area.
Yeah.
So and this sort of confirms that they did have a sort of a mission that was about that.
Yeah. No, also the
And
portal
that he
thing.
was the head of it.
Yeah. Also the portal thing. First of all, the Iraq war was like a big scam. Everybody knew there was no weapons of mass destruction. The first thing, they steal all the tablets and then they look for the target. But I think the biggest portal in this world is in Jerusalem. That's why every country is like not every country, but nations are fighting on that land. Jerusalem,
Which
that
one?
third,
Where is that?
Jerusalem, the
Oh,
third temple.
sorry. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
The
And
countries are fighting Muslims,
yeah.
Jews, and Christians. They've been
Oh,
fighting
that
for thousands
country.
of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the biggest significance of that is that's like there is a portal, and when we do our like religion and UFO podcast, I will elaborate more. But then there are some very religious historic documentation regarding it being a portal. One of them is like the night journey of Prophet Muhammad is like,
It's also the navel of the world.
yeah, but the night journey of Prophet Muhammad, he went to heavens, right? But he
Yeah.
didn't went to heaven from Mecca. He went to Jerusalem, and from Jerusalem he started journey to the heavens.
With the
So
flying
that is
beast.
one of, yeah. So that's one of those things, that there is a portal. And then there, like, if you go back to the time of Solomon, he was talking to jinns, which is another mythical
Yeah.
uh, creation.
Spirit. Yeah. Fire spirit.
Yeah,
It
so
fulfill
those,
wishes.
yeah, but there, why it was only happening in that area when Solomon built the temple and suddenly he had the power over them. So there is like a lot of indications that there might be something over there. And I think the portal can only, that there is like a portal, but I think that can only be opened by putting Ark of the Covenant in that area. So when you merge those things, that will open. So we'll go in detail when we talk about that topic.
Yeah,
And
and we also sort of touched upon it when we were talking about the pyramids. And for example, the
yeah,
pyramid in Bosnia with the message like the gate will open and you have to fight. And
yeah,
I forgot the exact message, but something along those lines. And then you got the Sphinx and the stories along those lines, which also sort of you know tie into what you're talking about.
yeah,
And but I sort of want to end with this one because otherwise we're already running over time.
yep.
And then I finished all my clips in one show.
Faith tradition, whatever that faith tradition is, and hold to that and subscribe to that in a very serious and devout way, and sort of pose the question, even for folks of that ilk, and I would count myself as one, if you're confronted with the reality of your religious belief system, like the reality of the metaphysical, an angel, a messenger from God, what have you, that's going to be a sea state change in your way of dealing with reality, right? Even though you already believe it, right? So it's one thing to believe and it's another to know.
Yeah, so I found that I fully agree with what he's saying here, and I think people have no idea, if any, when this thing is really real and when it appears, in
Yeah.
what kind of form it might take, right? We have absolutely no idea what we're dealing with, but also not, I think because in the UAP community there's sort of, you got two camps, but one camp which is now sort of dominant. That camp sort of says like, okay, we've seen the Hollywood movies, we are now ready to receive and deal with NHI and UAPs and all that kind of stuff. And I think at the level that we are right now, like this kind of conversations that we're having, yeah, we are ready. But if it would appear, if it would be an angel, and that basically means a messenger, right?
Yeah.
Nothing more than that. That's like the literal translation. What kind of messengers are we talking about? And if you believe in angels, it's something else to believe in them and then to see one.
Yeah. So if there are angels, it means there are also demons. Same thing goes against that too. Like if there are demons, there are angels. So if somebody like if angel appear on the sky, I will think that is a demon. I won't trust it, because just because somebody says there is, like, they are angel, that doesn't mean they are. And so
Oh,
be
but
very careful.
yeah,
Whatever is going to happen, be skeptical.
but I also think that they are right to be fearful of societal disruption, because
Oh, look,
I think people might literally go mad. Like
it,
I don't think that's unreasonable to think when
yeah,
it really appears.
exactly. I completely agree, because before my psychedelic trips, I was a very different person. And after my psychedelic trips, I have a very different view of everything. So I'm just saying, people, I understand how hard it was for me to recover back to this reality, but I don't think people can.
Yeah, and I think it's very sort of comparison to sort of tie it back with war. Like it's very easy to, like we are sitting here and say like, if it's wartime, I will do X, Y, and Z. And when you're actually in a war situation, you're shitting your pants and, right, you have no idea what you're doing. Right? We're now talking like in the abstract and theoretical, and then it's very easy to say, like it's not a hot situation, but we're in a cold situation, right? We're just, prefrontal cortex, we're thinking about abstract in the abstract. It's totally different when you're in the moment and when you're actually confronted with reality, like with the real thing, and it's happening in real time and you have to do something, you have to respond. Those two things are totally separate.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy. I'm just so afraid of that, about the people reaction. They will lose their mind. It's not I'm scared of the possibility. I will welcome it, but I know for people it will be terrible. They can't handle it. And the surprise will be that I think none of the religion is correct right now. I think
yeah.
they all are getting information in their way, but people have perception about religion. But if that disclosure happen and these entities are real, that's just community.
Yeah, I think you're also right about that, because I think it's very clear that you're correct about it, because they have created these structures, these belief systems, and these belief systems are, I think, valuable in their own right. Right? It's not that there is interesting stuff about religion, and and also positive stuff about it, but they are very rigid structures, right? It's not like
Yeah.
that only the mystics within those traditions have a really open mind about stuff. But you can even ask
Yeah.
yourself, how open-minded are the mystics? But uh, but but the general
Mystics are
believer.
very small quantity of any
Yeah.
religious group. They're very small people, like a small group of people. So yeah, they are very open-minded, but I don't think that's gonna work because nobody actually respect the mystics anyway in any religion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So will be that's why they call it catastrophic disclosure. So let's see.
Yeah, yeah. I think we should end on this, because we could go on and on. But I think we got almost 1 hour and 22 minutes,
Yeah, it's
and
all
we
right.
covered everything. We covered everything.
He covered everything finally.
Actually, I went over show notes from previous show, and I thought, oh yeah, I still have those, but those are for another time. I think we can finally move on to the next topic. So you can pick which one will it be.
Well, we'll pick and we'll just announce it on the Twitter. We'll discuss that, but let's
Okay.
see. Yeah.
Okay, then I want to thank everybody for
Oh,
listening in.
oh, by the way, next time when we do, we will know for sure that World War starts or not, because it will be after the Cuban exercises. So let's see. We have to
Uh,
wait and see.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Now there's one more thing. One. Now, good that you say that, because there was one more thing. Okay, so we're gonna tie it back to Bitcoin. Because you are a very good trader, and this is not financial advice, but
I am not a
I,
good trader, man. I'm just
but I got I'm a big fan of Alessio Rastani,
yeah,
and he recently sold 90% of his stock positions, and he gave a couple of reasons for doing that. And one of the reasons is that June is a very weak month
yeah.
historically for stock markets, and of course Bitcoin is mostly tied to the stock still, correlation.
Hmm.
Another reason was the Dow Jones Transportation Index indicator, or whatever he calls it, is showing extreme weakness. And what was the third reason? Oh yeah, and there was a no that well, and a friend of mine also sort of said like, yeah, that could very well be the case, because there recently was a gravestone doji on the I don't know, on the chart, whatever. Like, so basically, so basically Rastani and my friend, who's actually a really good trader, they both said, like, they are expecting in the next couple of weeks a 40% correction with Bitcoin, or at least my friend thinks a 40% correction in Bitcoin is reasonable. And Rassani was, of course, talking about the stock market.
Possible. Yeah.
But most
June
analysts,
historically is a very weak month, so we have
yeah.
to wait and see.
And Rassani doesn't sell 90% of his stocks easily, right? That's pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
But why I sort of showed it is because when you have these kind of corrections, like if you have like a 40% correction, then my experience being in this space for 5 years is that they tend to correspond with COVID, Ukraine conflict,
Yeah.
right? They correspond with big events. So I thought that very significant that you got these respected analysts who are basing their forecast on purely on charts. But the expression from Baruch, like, show me the charts and I'll tell you the news. I interpret that saying actually also that you can actually predict the news based on the charts. Like, the charts are telling you something. Oh, shit is gonna happen, right? Like,
Yeah, there's a whole thing called financial astrology.
yeah.
Yeah, so people do these trades using astrology, and that's the whole thing. I don't believe in that, but like, yeah, a lot of people are going with astrological charts.
Well,
You,
the way
yeah,
I see it is also right. These countries probably also have large positions in stock markets, right? So if these
yeah,
countries see, oh shit is going to happen in the stock market, then I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, right?
yeah,
So that because they get in financial trouble themselves if the stock market
yeah.
makes moves like that. So that might make them do crazy stuff at those moments. But that. So I hope I'm wrong, but maybe that corresponds with an escalation of conflict.
I don't think 40% will be what, 49,000.
Yeah, so I don't know where is
But anyway,
Bitcoin.
I think 49,000
No,
is,
35
yeah.
because
That's, I don't think 40%. That'll be a world war. Like a new, like these ships fight with each other, then you're going to 35, but 49 is possible. I was
yeah,
looking at yesterday and I was thinking that, but that it's possible. That
it's
doesn't mean
40,
likely.
43 or something like that.
Yeah, but 49 is not likely. It's possible. It could happen in a month, but depends on the political situation. But politics is going in the worst area where we can see devastating effect, because the war in Middle East is escalating. Russian war is also escalating. So let's see.
So let's end with the quote from Karl Nell. Two stable states are separated by an unstable middle ground. So, and with that,
Yeah.
with that, we'll leave the
All
show.
right. Bye, guys.
Take care. Bye bye.